On August 1st, 1969, 3 newspapers in California received identical letters. Each contained 1/3 of a cryptic cipher minus 408 symbols that made no sense. The letter began with these chilling words: "Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. I like killing people because it is so much fun." This was the beginning of one of the most terrifying and mysterious cases in American history. A killer who taunted police, sent encrypted messages, and was never caught. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, December 20th, 1968, Vallejo, California. It was a cold winter night when 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen went on their first date. They drove to a remote lover's lane on Lake Herman Road. At approximately 11 p.m., a car pulled up behind them. Someone got out and walked toward their vehicle. Without warning, the attacker opened fire. David was shot in the head at point-blank range. Betty Lou tried to run, but was shot 5 times in the back. Both teenagers died at the scene. Police had no suspects, no motive, and no witnesses. It seemed like a random act of violence. But it wasn't random. It was calculated. And it was just the beginning. 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, another couple was attacked. Darlene Ferrin, 22, and Michael Mago, 19, were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, just 4 miles from the first attack. Around midnight, a car pulled up next to them. The driver got out, shined a flashlight into their car, and without saying a word, opened fire with a 9mm pistol. He shot them multiple times, walked back to his car, then returned and shot them again. Darlene died at the hospital. Michael survived, despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest. He described the attacker as a stocky man, around 5'8", with short brown hair. But the description was vague, and there were thousands of men in California who fit that profile. Less than an hour after the shooting, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. A man's voice, calm and emotionless, said, "I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The call was traced to a payphone, but the killer was already gone. This was the first time police realized they were dealing with a serial killer. And then the letters started arriving. On August 1st, 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald each received a letter. The letters were nearly identical. They contained details about the murders that only the killer could know: the type of ammunition used, the positions of the victims, specific details never released to the public. But the most disturbing part was the cipher. Each newspaper received 1/3 of a 408-symbol cryptogram. The killer demanded that the cipher be printed on the front page of each newspaper, or he would go on a killing rampage and murder a dozen people over the weekend. The newspapers complied. The cipher was published, and the public was both terrified and fascinated. The letter ended with a chilling signature, a circle with a cross through it. This symbol would become synonymous with terror. The killer signed his next letter with a name. "This is the Zodiac speaking." He had given himself a title, and he was just getting started. Amateur codebreakers across the country tried to solve the cipher. On August 8th, just 1 week after publication, a schoolteacher named Donald Hardin and his wife Betty cracked the code. The message read, I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. The message was disturbing, but it didn't reveal the killer's identity. The final 18 characters of this cipher have never been definitively solved. Some believe they contain the killer's name. Others think they're meaningless filler. The Zodiac had successfully created a mystery that would haunt investigators for decades. 2 months later, on September 27, 1969, the Zodiac struck again. This time, the attack was different. Brian Hartnell, 20, and Cecelia Shepard, 22, were having a picnic at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon. Around 4:30 p.m., a man approached them. He was wearing a bizarre costume, a black executioner's hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes, and a bib-like garment with the Zodiac symbol on it. He was carrying a gun. The man told them he was an escaped convict and needed their car and money. He seemed calm, almost polite. He ordered Brian to tie up Cecelia. Then he tied up Brian. Then, without warning, he pulled out a knife and began stabbing them. He stabbed Cecelia 10 times in the back. He stabbed Brian 6 times. Then he walked calmly to their car, pulled out a black marker, and wrote on the car door, Vallejo, December 20th, 68, the 4th of July, 69, Sept 27 to 69, 630. By knife, he had documented his crimes like a trophy list. Brian survived the attack. Cecelia died 2 days later in the hospital. Before she died, she was able to give a description of the attacker, but it matched the vague description from previous attacks. Shortly after the stabbing, the Napa Police Department received a phone call from a man who calmly reported, "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder." They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. They were in a white Volkswagen Carmen Dia. The call was traced to a payphone, and police found a palm print on the phone. But it didn't match anyone in the database. The Zodiac had been careful. 2 weeks later, on October 11th, 1969, the Zodiac killed again. This time, the victim was a taxi driver named Paul Stine, 29 years old. Paul picked up a passenger in downtown San Francisco. The passenger asked to be taken to the intersection of Washington and Maple Streets in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. When they arrived, the passenger shot Paul once in the head with a 9mm pistol, killing him instantly. The killer then tore off a piece of Paul's blood-stained shirt, took his wallet and keys, and calmly walked away. 2 teenagers witnessed the shooting from a nearby window and called the police. They described the killer as a white male, approximately 5'8" to 5'9", stocky build, with reddish-brown hair, wearing glasses. Police arrived within minutes. They actually stopped a man matching the description just a few blocks away, but due to a miscommunication, the dispatcher had said the suspect was a black male. They let him go. The Zodiac had escaped again, by sheer luck. 3 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received another letter. It contained a piece of Paul Stine's blood-stained shirt as proof. The letter mocked the police. "School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire. and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The threat sent shockwaves through the Bay Area. Parents were terrified. School buses were given police escorts. The Zodiac had successfully terrorized an entire region. The letter also included another cryptogram, a 340-symbol cipher that was far more complex than the first. For 51 years, this cipher remained unsolved. It became one of the greatest puzzles in cryptography. The Zodiac continued to send letters throughout 1970 and 1971. He sent greeting cards, more ciphers, and taunting messages. He claimed to have killed 37 people, though police could only confirm 5 murders and 2 survivors. Some letters included bizarre details, diagrams of bombs, references to a death machine, and even a claim that he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. In one letter, he included a detailed diagram of a bomb he claimed he would use to blow up a school bus. Bomb experts analyzed the diagram and determined it wouldn't actually work, but the threat was taken seriously. The Zodiac seemed to enjoy the attention. He complained when his letters weren't published on the front page. He demanded that people wear Zodiac symbol buttons. He was playing a game with the public and the police, and he was winning. The investigation became one of the largest manhunts in California history. Thousands of suspects were investigated. Handwriting experts analyzed the letters. The FBI got involved. Psychologists created profiles. The killer was likely a white male in his 20s or 30s, intelligent, possibly with military training, someone who craved attention and control. But that description fit thousands of people. Police focused on several suspects over the years. Arthur Lee Allen was the prime suspect for decades. He was a former elementary school teacher who lived in Vallejo. He wore a Zodiac brand watch. He had been in the areas where the murders occurred. A friend reported that Allen had talked about hunting people and calling himself Zodiac before the murders became public. Police searched his home multiple times and found disturbing items, but nothing that definitively linked him to the murders. His handwriting didn't match the letters. His fingerprints didn't match the partial prints found at crime scenes. His DNA, tested after his death in 1992, didn't match DNA recovered from the letters. Arthur Lee Allen died without ever being charged, and the case remained open. Other suspects emerged over the years. Richard Gajkowski, a newspaper editor who had access to the same typewriter used in some Zodiac letters. Lawrence Kane, a man with a history of violence against women who lived near the murder sites. Earl Van Best Jr., whose son claimed he was the Zodiac. Ross Sullivan, a library worker who matched witness descriptions. Each suspect had compelling circumstantial evidence, but none had definitive proof. The Zodiac case became a rabbit hole of theories, speculation, and obsession. Amateur detectives spent decades trying to solve the mystery. Books were written. Documentaries were made. The Zodiac became a cultural phenomenon, appearing in movies, TV shows, and countless true crime discussions. The last confirmed Zodiac letter was received in 1974. It was a short note to the San Francisco Chronicle that began, Me 37, SFPD to 0. The killer was keeping score. After 1974, the letter stopped. Had the Zodiac died? Been imprisoned for another crime? Simply stopped killing? No one knew. The case went cold, but it was never forgotten. In 2002, the San Francisco Police Department developed a partial DNA profile from saliva, on the back of stamps used on Zodiac letters. The DNA was degraded and incomplete, but it was something. In 2018, investigators used genetic genealogy, the same technique that caught the Golden State Killer, to try to identify the Zodiac. They compared the DNA to public genealogy databases, but the results were inconclusive. The DNA sample was too degraded to get a clear match. Then, in December 2020, something remarkable happened. A team of amateur codebreakers, David Oranchuk, a software developer from Virginia, Jarl van Eyck, a Belgian computer programmer, and Sam Blake, an Australian mathematician, finally cracked the 340-character cipher that had stumped experts for 51 years. Using a combination of computer algorithms and human intuition, they decoded the message. It read, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me." That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death. The message didn't reveal the killer's identity, but it confirmed what investigators had long suspected. The Zodiac was obsessed with the afterlife and believed his victims would serve him in paradise. The solution of the cipher made international headlines and reignited interest in the case. In October 2021, a group of investigators called the Case Breakers announced they had identified the Zodiac Killer. They claimed it was a man named Gary Francis Post, a house painter and military veteran who died in 2018. The group pointed to circumstantial evidence, scars on Post's forehead that matched a witness description, anagrams of his name in the ciphers, and connections to some of the murder locations. However, the FBI and local police departments did not confirm this identification. They stated that the case remained open and unsolved. Many Zodiac researchers were skeptical of the Case Breakers' claims, noting that the evidence was largely circumstantial and that similar claims had been made about other suspects over the years. The Zodiac Killer case remains officially unsolved. 5 confirmed victims are attributed to the Zodiac: David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecelia Shepard, and Paul Stine. 2 people survived his attacks: Michael Mago and Brian Hartnell. The killer claimed to have murdered 37 people, but investigators have never found evidence of additional victims. Some unsolved murders from the same time period have been speculatively linked to the Zodiac, but none have been confirmed. The case files remain open in multiple jurisdictions. The San Francisco Police Department still receives tips and investigates new leads. In 2021, they announced they were using advanced DNA technology to re-examine evidence from the crime scenes. Why has the Zodiac case captivated the public for over 50 years? Perhaps it's the ciphers, the intellectual challenge of solving a puzzle left by a killer. Perhaps it's the taunting letters, the audacity of a murderer who played games with police and the media. Perhaps it's the mystery itself, the fact that someone could commit such terrible crimes and simply vanish. The Zodiac represents something deeply unsettling, the idea that evil can hide in plain sight, that someone can take innocent lives and never face justice. The case has inspired countless books, movies, and TV shows. David Fincher's 2007 film Zodiac brought the case to a new generation. The movie focused on the obsession the case created, how it consumed the lives of journalists, detectives, and amateur investigators. That obsession continues today. Online communities dedicated to solving the Zodiac case have thousands of members. They analyze every letter, every cipher, every piece of evidence. They debate suspects, create timelines, and develop theories. Some believe the Zodiac was a single individual. Others think there may have been multiple killers using the same identity. Some think the Zodiac was a genius criminal mastermind. Others believe he was simply lucky. The truth is, we may never know. The Zodiac Killer could have been anyone: a neighbor, a coworker, a stranger passing through town. He could have lived a normal life, died of natural causes, and taken his secret to the grave. Or he could still be alive, an elderly man living quietly somewhere, holding on to the biggest secret in true crime history. The Zodiac case changed how we think about serial killers. Before the Zodiac, serial killers were often caught relatively quickly. The Zodiac showed that a killer could taunt authorities, commit multiple murders, and disappear without a trace. He showed that intelligence and planning could allow someone to evade capture indefinitely. The case influenced how police investigate serial crimes, how they communicate with the media, and how they use technology to track killers. The lessons learned from the Zodiac investigation have been applied to countless cases since. In many ways, the Zodiac Killer defined the modern era of criminal investigation. He was one of the first killers to weaponize media attention, to turn his crimes into a public spectacle. He understood that fear was as powerful as violence. By sending letters and ciphers, he kept himself in the headlines. He made sure that even when he wasn't killing, people were thinking about him, talking about him, fearing him. The families of the victims have lived with this uncertainty for over 5 decades. They have never received closure. They have never seen justice. David Faraday's family, Betty Lou Jensen's family, Darlene Ferrin's family, Cecelia Shepard's family, Paul Stine's family, they all live with the knowledge that their loved one's killer was never caught. Michael Mageau and Brian Hartnell, the survivors, have carried the trauma of their attacks for their entire lives. They have been interviewed countless times, asked to relive the worst moments of their lives in hopes that some new detail might crack the case. The Zodiac didn't just kill 5 people. He traumatized families, terrified communities, and created a mystery that has haunted California and the nation for generations. As of 2025. The Zodiac Killer case remains one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in American history. Advanced DNA technology offers hope that the case might someday be solved. Genetic genealogy has revolutionized cold case investigations. If viable DNA can be extracted from the evidence, and if that DNA can be matched to a family tree in a genealogy database, the Zodiac's identity might finally be revealed. But that's a big if. The DNA samples from the Zodiac letters are degraded and contaminated. They may not be usable. And even if they are, the killer may not have any relatives in genealogy databases. The investigation continues, but time's running out. If the Zodiac is still alive, he would be in his 80s or 90s. Many of the original investigators have passed away. Witnesses have died. Evidence has degraded. With each passing year, the chances of solving the case diminish, but the mystery endures. The Zodiac Killer represents the ultimate unsolved puzzle. He is a reminder that some questions may never be answered, some crimes may never be solved, and some killers may never be caught. He is a ghost that haunts the history of American crime. a symbol of the darkness that can exist in ordinary places, in ordinary times. The Zodiac Killer terrorized Northern California for less than 2 years, but his legacy has lasted more than half a century. His ciphers, his letters, his symbol, they have become iconic images in true crime culture. And somewhere, perhaps in an old filing cabinet, or buried in a backyard, or locked in someone's memory, the truth about the Zodiac Killer still exists, waiting to be discovered. Until that day comes, the case remains open, the mystery unsolved, and the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most enigmatic and terrifying figures in criminal history.